no riots, so that all of us can be fine.
Right, we have in the studio Director, Commonwealth Institute of Advanced and Professional Studies, Professor Anthony Kila. Good morning. It's good to have you join us.
Good morning, both of you. Good morning, everybody. Good to be here.
Great, great. We are talking Ondo election, and INEC has been reading out data to us with regards to the number of registered voters and the number of those who collected their PVCs, saying that over 2 million persons were the number of registered voters, but 1.7 million persons are expected to vote today. But the information we've been getting from our correspondents who are there, is that the atmosphere is not looking charged as it should leading up to the election, although we do not know how things will pan out today. But from your perspective, what really is the concern you have with the dwindling number of participation of voters when it comes to elections like this?
Okay, so that's a bit of a complex answer from me. It's not a difficult question. It's just I have my own personal view. So it's complex for me. My personal view is that people always say that, or rather, let's put it this way. Why is it complex for me? Because mostly people say, oh, let's get more people to vote. And when we don't see a lot of people voting, we worry. I am not one of those people. I don't care if a lot of people vote. I want few people who know what they're doing to vote, not a lot of people who don't know what they're doing. So to that extent.
Why?
Well, because this idea of, millions of people voting, millions of people don't know what they're doing, generally.
Isn't that what democracy is about?
No, it's not. It's an abuse of democracy. We're going to go to that at some point. The system that works is a system of informed people, not a system of people generally.
In a democracy? In
a democracy. Yes, in a democracy. What we have is an abuse of democracy. We have to go back to the way democracy was intended and a commonsensical understanding of what democracy ought to be.
Take us back.
You want to go back right away?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes, for this conversation. Yeah.
Before we go to your point. Okay. So, generally speaking, if you look at the ancient Greeks when they started democracy, it wasn't everybody really. Citizens were qualified. You needed to show that you are committed to the land. You could fight and die for it. You had stake. In that reason, when you vote, you wouldn't vote for something that would destroy tomorrow because of the benefit of today.
So patriotism is...
Patriotism and stakeholdership is what I advocate. And stakeholdership. I believe that if we want a democracy that will work, what we need is for people to show knowledge and stake so that they then have to vote. At the moment, we're treating our voter's card, our PVC, like a proof of identity, like a validation of citizenship. Automatically, you're 18, you get to vote. I say no. And I've been advocating this for a while. I say no. Let us treat our voter's card like a driver's license. Before you can vote, show me two things. One, that you understand. Do some test, oral or written, I don't care. Just the way you do driver's license. Show me that you actually understand what you're voting about. If you don't, stay away. Show me that you have stake. Pay your tax for 2 years. This is 2024. You want to vote in 2027, start paying your tax for the next 2 years, regularly. So that way, when we say the government is spending our money, it will truly be our money because you're a taxpayer, because you're a voter. If you are informed and you have stake in the Commonwealth, your view about the matters of the nation will be different. You will not be swayed by the 2,000 naira of today that you are saying because you have invested more in your tax. The 2,000 will not sway you. You will not be swayed by ethnicity or religion because you're an employer. You want somebody that is competent to do the job. And I think that is a fraud that our political elite and our intellectual elite have perpetrated against the rest of us.
Please, I wonder, wait, please, there's something interesting. How did our political elite, like you rightly introduce this into our own system? Because perhaps this is the peculiarity that we face as a country.
Well, because you see, what we've done in Nigeria, like in most cases, is that we jump faces unnecessarily. We're like dull students that get double promotion. They don't have the intellect. They don't have.
Those are strong words.
Yes. That's what happened to us. Because generally, if you look at our history, what have we done? We have gone from rural area to post-industrialism without going through industrialism. So we have a country where what are the most profitable thing? Services. Whereas we don't have factories, we don't produce. The carpenter, the farmer, the artisan, the engineer are not rich. Who's rich? Influencers and pastors. They sell things that you cannot touch. That is the post-industrial era. But before you get there, you should have built things. So we haven't built. The same way we went from colonialization to post-colonization, universal adult suffrage. The countries that introduced democracy went through a lot of phases before they got to universal adult suffrage. I have this comeback from an international tour of elections in Washington, of party elections in England, and I tell you that we're reviewing this universal adult suffrage. And I say we, actually, I've been saying it, I've been warning them.
Right.
The reason why I was invited, because they realized that I've been saying this thing for over 15 years. Where they are now, I was there 20 years ago. Because some of us saw this risk. But to your question, the numbers...
No, you talked about uninformed persons, uninformed people. Yes. Who's responsible?
Yes, that was the question you were asking. Yeah. How did our political people... It's our politicians, it's our leaders. And I use the word leadership generally.
Okay.
Politicians, because they are the gladiators in the field, the intellectual class and the moral class, because they've allowed it. You know, it's a mixture of two things. Who are responsible? The answer, politicians and intellectual class.
Right.
Why? Mischief and some ignorance. And
you think it's deliberate?
Partly deliberate, yes. That's the mischievous part. We have to call these things out. We have to be very clear about it. Some people are mischievous. Some people are just good-natured people. As I'm saying this now, some people are at home and saying, Anthony Kila started it again.
Yes.
It's this bad thing that he says. You know, some family members are saying, God, don't go and say this thing outside. But here you go. But it is fact. We must say it, we want to be honest. So some people think it's a good thing. Let everybody vote. You know, it's a good feeling thing. Allow the youth, allow people, allow this. No, the more the merrier. No, it doesn't work that way. Do we do the more the merrier when we employ doctors? Do we do the more the merrier?
That's a different ballgame.
It's a different thing. Yeah, in fact, they treat one person. Right. Politicians treat millions of us.
Right.
What we don't know, the politicians, people who manage our lives, our policies, are more dangerous to us than doctors and teachers who teach one at a time. We need to think that way.
Interesting. Now, we just saw live feed coming from Owo in Ondo State. There we have seen the INEC officials or ad hoc staffers, as you may want to call them, already on the ground there, preparing and waiting for voters to come out to vote. And we have seen the trickle of some voters coming out there to go and check the register and also see what can be done before the process begins in earnest at 8 o'clock. And so we'll definitely be bringing you details of what is happening out there. You see them, they are checking their names, their details, they're ready to vote. And I wonder for you, Anthony, Ondo State is one of the states a lot of persons have said to be politically aware, to have politically aware, you know, residents.
That's the second part of the question.
Yes.
Why few people? Before we go to the, to the philosophy of politics thing.
Well, from the numbers that we're seeing, because when you look at Edo State election, initially a lot of persons felt, oh, we'll get a number of people come out. But unfortunately, 24%, like you mentioned.
Yeah, 24% in every state.
So are you hoping for perhaps a 35 or 40%?
No, I'm not hoping for. I don't hope for these things. I project it. I do lead to hope. A lot of people will not come out in Ondo State for a very simple reason. Because there's no real competition there. I was in Akure, Okitipupa. I toured Ondo State a few weeks ago before I traveled to see what was going on there. And I accuse the opposition parties in Ondo State of committed a fraud against democracy. They're not fighting.
When you say fight, how do you mean?
Well, they're not out there. They're not showing that they're a credible alternative. The PDP is asleep, the Labour...
Let's not mention political parties.
Oh, yeah, we can mention...
But what should be the role of opposition, really?
Opposition should be proving themselves to be a credible alternative. They should be showing that they have people, they have programs that can offer something else. than what the government of the day is offering. And at the moment, the opposition in the Ondo elections have not shown that. I literally counted for every poster of one party, the one that is probably going to win today, to the number of posters of the other parties. And I counted about...
We can't assume, because in politics...
Well, we can assume. But some of us can predict. Well, you can't assume. Some of us can actually project this thing, because we've seen what is going on in terms of boots on the ground, in terms of feeling of the...
Talk to us about what you saw.
Well, some of us are
yes, so positively about a particular party.
Well, because the others have not put up a fight, really, and the people are feeling it, that it's a waste of time. They've not shown, that they're there to take charge. There is, so let's put it, we can't talk party, but if you look at the candidates on the field, the main ones, they have some things in common. They're all former deputy governors.
Okay.
And there seems to be a sort of consensus that let's let this one go and do it. The fraud against democracy, I say. Because we don't say these things, and it's part of why we have a problem. We don't look at the duties of everybody involved in the arena of democracy. Government of the day, opposition, media, intellectual cards, clerics, social leaders, community leaders. We don't talk about the duty of everybody. The government of the day has a duty to govern, and we must hold them accountable for that. Opposition has a duty to hold government accountable and to provide alternative in every step. Alternative of program, alternative of people. You need to show that we can do things differently. We have the people that can do differently. It is a duty that they have because they've earned the vote, and that is their raison d'etre. That is their reason of being in that field. But in this country, after election, a lot of opposition people just go to bed. They go back to sleep. It takes them 4 years to wake up from the defeat. Well, actually 2.5. Because after that, they wake up to start trying to vie for office again. I wanted to remind them, because when they go to sleep, when they don't do their duty, what they've done is that they're depriving the nation, the Commonwealth, of vibrant ideas. And they're depriving the nation of that kind of fire that wakes up government to know that if I don't perform, these people are going to...
But you don't see it as the incumbent party, infiltrating the opposition just to whittle down their powers.
It is very possible, but it is the duty of the opposition not to be infiltrated. I think
they should have gatekeepers.
They should look.
Or maybe the incumbent party having a perfect system whereby they can infiltrate.
There is no perfect system. No incumbent party was born as an incumbent party. It is the duty of people to resist infiltration. If you have boys and you give them the job of men, they're going to be bought, they're going to be bullied. But if you have men doing the jobs of men, they will stand up. So the problem we have is that we have a lot of people who are not fit for the offices and the roles they cover. Because they do not have the gravitas, they do not have the backbone to stand up to things. They are easily bullied and bought. It must be said, bullied and bought.
But this wasn't the case many years ago. So I am wondering how we got to this point where people or parties are easily infiltrated, where people are easily bought, where we are handing over roles to boys instead of men. And,
or girls in the job of women. Because women tend to escape this thing when it's bad example. It's only when it's good example that people are gender friendly.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so that's the question. How did we get to this point? Because our politics used to be vibrant and competitive, as we know. And even in Ondo State, we have seen that. But
absolutely.
How it was whittled down to this point is what I'm asking.
I think it's an anthropological mystery. This constant, continuous decline in our level of most things in the country. But, some people argue that it's not so mysterious, that you can actually study, how we got here. Because the nostalgic days you think of, the First Republic, Second Republic, you think of those names. You'll understand why, those kind of people, even when they decamped, you could see, vibrant confrontations.
Absolutely.
Then what has happened is somehow I blame the military. Let's look at it that way.
Okay.
Because the military killed the spirit of a partisan fighting political class. So we are left with activists in the forefront and, people who will actually govern. didn't see politics as attractive enough. That whittled down, to use the expression, the quality of participants in politics. So that the people who went to power were people who could take the risk, who didn't have major things to do. Because let's look at the history of Nigeria, of this republic.
Okay.
98, 99. Those who fought for democracy, the very top ones, they didn't go to office. They went back to some other professions. I think of, a lot of Nadeko people. So the people who went there are the ones, and I don't want anybody to take offense, but many of them are ones who had nothing better to go to. They just went there. I want people who are old enough or people who have read enough to know that when the transition of 99 happened, a lot of people did not believe it was going to happen.
Right. If you could just hold the thought,
yes.
We'll come back to this matter. We have our correspondent, Ayodeji Morade, standing by to bring us up to speed with details of activities happening. Earlier, Ayo, we saw that INEC ad hoc staffers were already on the ground, and we also saw a few number of voters going there to check their register. But quickly paint us a picture of what is going on where you are right now.
Let me tell you that INEC officials arrive as early as possible at different polling units. I've visited about 5 polling units in Igboroko here in Owo, and we saw many of them, some of these voters coming to check whether their names are on the list. Let me tell you that we have 11 political wards here in Owo. An election will take place in these 11 wards. Owo is just about 30 minutes drive from Akure, the city of power. But let me tell you that everything is going on peacefully here. We have INEC officials and the people who are here to vote. We also have security men. Some of the polling units I've visited, I saw about 4 policemen. Some of them are women who are there to ensure that there's no breakdown of law and order. So far, so good. It has been peaceful in many areas visited in Owo. And I will also visit Akoko areas. There are 4 local government areas in Akoko, and I will be there to give you live updates about what is happening in these local governments. But in Owo, everything is still peaceful.
All right, talk to us. How's the weather this morning? And also, have you been able to speak with some of the persons who came to register, to cast their votes, to register? How's their mood? Do you see them being in that mood for election?
For the voters, they are willing to come out. They told me that they will be coming out to exercise their franchise. Some of them came as early as 7:30, even before the polling centers opened. So what they are saying is that nothing will deter them from coming to exercise their civic right. This is their civic duty, and they must vote for the candidate of their choice. And that is what most of these voters are saying. They've come to check their names on the list. Some were disappointed that their names were not on the list. And for those who were lucky to find their names on the voter list, they said they will come and exercise their franchise. So we have many people who are here to monitor the exercise. Let me also tell you how it's going to go here. Voting will start by 8 a.m. According to INEC, if you have a person on the list, even after voting hours have closed, the last person will be allowed to vote. So there is no specific time when the voting will end. The voters, once you are on the queue, you must be attended to end the vote. And shortly after that, the votes will be sorted and be counted in the presence of some of the people who are willing to follow the process.
Right. Yeah, you didn't answer the question. How's the weather this morning?
Come again with your question.
How is the weather this morning? How is the weather in Ondo State this morning?
It's cool. Everywhere is cool. You can see it yourself. Everything's cool here. It's not raining. The sun has not started shining, but for now, everything is cool, peaceful, and people are expected to come out to do the needful, which is complete for the candidate of their choice.
Interesting. It's good to know that the weather is conducive for the voters as we speak. But talk to us about security presence in Owo and the various polling units that you went to. What can you tell us?
That when we started coming from Akure to Owo, we met security checkpoints where we were checked. You know, some travelers who were caught by these security personnel who did not allow them to pass. But for now, I don't know whether they've been allowed to pass. And now we are in Owo, and we have security personnel everywhere, DSS, members of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps. We have the police. We saw some other security agents who are also part of this exercise. So in terms of security, we have many of them who are moving around in different vehicles to monitor the situation, to see what is happening at different polling units. Where I am now, we have about 3-4 policemen who are here to maintain peace, to ensure that there is no breakdown of law and all that. So far, so good. Everything is going on well in Owo.
And also, some of the persons you interacted with, do they show signs that they have trust in the electoral umpire, especially in the area of integrity and transparency and fairness?
Well, some of them said what they want is transparency from the electoral body, that the electoral body must be neutral to all the political parties and ensure that the way the votes are sorted and counted as transparent. So they are willing to stay to the end of the voting process, that they will wait and see how the votes will be sorted and counted in their presence. So that is what these people are saying. They want to be part of the process from the beginning to the end.
All right. Yodeji will definitely keep tabs with you on developments coming out of Owo as events unfold in the course of the election. Thank you. All right, let's get back to our conversation. Anthony, well, Owo is one of the local government's areas that INEC has said all eyes should be on, but I'm wondering, we're already seeing activities like he has rightly pointed, but why do you think that Owo is such a key, from your perspective now, why you think Owo is that key local government area to watch?
Oh, well, you know, because it has a history of vibrant political activism generally, but also because in this specific election, because of the relationship between we can't mention political parties, but between the camp of the incumbent and the camp of the former governor. So there's a statement to be made. If that is, probably the battleground in this matter more than everywhere, because there are factions within the party, some looking right, some looking left. Let's put it that way, and there's also personal contention going on, which goes beyond party politics. It's actually a battle of individuals, of loyalists of the former late governor who did not go with the present governor and incumbent governor. So that is the reason for that. So history...
And that will determine a lot.
Well, determine a lot, because a big constituency, as you heard, and also, it's quite a vibrant one, an influential one, because what happens in Owo, for people who follow in those states, affects a lot of the communities around it.
Now, let's look at the electoral umpire. The INEC chairman, Professor Yakubu, said that, they've learned their lessons from what happened in Edo State, and this time you see a different INEC in Ondo States. How assuring is this?
Oh, no, I've stopped following what the electoral empire says, because for me, they fell short of glory a long time ago. And,
How long ago?
Well, quite a long time ago. There's some... I'll finish the sentence. They fell short of glory a long time ago, and I doubt they're redeemable. I think INEC should be overhauled. I think INEC should be thrown away.
Why?
And reset.
No, these are very strong statements.
They're very strong, but very clear and very
we have to be careful with our choice of words.
I take responsibility for every word. My name is Anthony Kila. I'm a political analyst. The terms of my work on these issues are detailed, and my positions are new.
We understand that, but then the choice of words, there are people who can be easily swayed and influenced by statements like that you are making.
Well, I hope they are.
But the issue is this: if you're talking of overhauling, right? What are you talking about what are you looking at in terms of the overhauling of INEC? Will that even resolve the issues of the trust deficit that people have?
We start from where you stop. I think the trust deficit is product of the fact that INEC says we've learned our lessons from last election. They're always learning their lessons from last election. When are they going to graduate? You know, they keep learning every day.
We learn every day as humans.
We learn every day.
Not institutions. Individuals learn every day. Institution is a social
Who make up the
construct.
institution?
No. Institution is a social construct that before you do it, you sit down very well, you learn from history, you learn from geography. Before you make a policy, before you set an office, it's not a personal thing where you stand up in the morning and pray to God and say, God, help me. And, you know, I learn. That's an individual life. The life of an institution is where you lean on the shoulders of giants. You sit down and say, this office that we want to construct, this policy that we want to put forward, how has it been done in history? How is it being done in Asia, in America, in Europe? Let us come up with the best things so that we don't make errors. You put together different brains that study the reality and project the future and come up with solutions that would solve our problem. INEC needs to overhaul, I argue, because at the moment it is not fit for purpose. The INEC of the future needs to be decentralized, it needs to be digitalized, and it needs to be devolved. And a lot of things need to be outsourced. I believe that if you truly want credible, transparent election, you need to link PVC with BVN. I believe that a lot of the functions that local government and INEC offices are doing now should be taken away from them, at least should be complemented with others. I believe that, for example, registration of voters should be a continuous thing, not something that needs to stop. I argue that, for example, banks should be allowed to give out PVC the way they give out ATM cards, because it is linked to it, so you take away that crowd. They say to me, what about people who don't have banks? We can meet them at their needs. But really and truly, in 2024, if you don't have a bank account, you'll be voting at all. But let's leave that aside.
That's a valid one.
So let's leave that aside. I believe that way that election results should be something that wherever you vote, as you voted in your ward, you will know your result. All you need to do is to go to a system and see if it tallies. I believe the same way we guard our money, like the banks do, we can guard our votes that way. I even argue that you don't need somebody keeping us late till night, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., to be counting the votes and be calling some strange numbers and looking at it with glasses, waking us up. We don't need all those things. Those are very archaic, obsolete ways of doing things. If you digitalize it, we can actually see as the voters going. Go there, refresh, as the voters